Good afternoon, and welcome back to the Wellness Check, a place to check your wellness, to learn tips and tricks for a sound mind, a strong heart, and a healing soul. My name is Katie Porter. I'm a licensed therapist for over 10 years, and today I wanted to talk to you about the advantages of doing neurobiological therapies. And I know that sounds like a mouthful, but I wanted to take some time to break that down, talk to you about what it means, and if you or a loved one are searching for therapy, why some of these techniques might be a very good avenue for you. In my past videos, you've seen and heard me talk about EMDR therapy, which really is another mouthful. EMDR stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. That's something that I specialize in, and I also specialize in something called brain spotting. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what these therapies are, why they're different than your traditional talk therapy, and then I'll do another video on what is brain spotting, because I know I did one for what is EMDR. So a neurobiological therapy sounds maybe kind of sciencey. If you know me at all, then you know I'm a huge brain nerd, and I love to educate people on their own minds and their own bodies and why they feel the way they do, why they react to the world around them the way that they do, and how they end up carrying the belief systems that they have. Part of that, actually, a lot of that has to do with one's nervous system. When you're doing traditional talk therapy, as you might imagine going into a therapist's office, you're sitting on the couch, you're talking back and forth with your therapist, that is traditional talk therapy. And it really is a wonderful thing. You can learn so much about yourself and your relationships. So many tools can come out of talk therapy, and I think it's a beautiful thing. There are situations, however, in my opinion, that traditional talk therapy will not help an individual feel better. It will not help them move along to their therapeutic goals. And they kind of hop around from therapist to therapist for years and even decades before they come to me or someone else that does these therapies just saying, I don't feel better. There's something missing. That's where these therapies make the most impact. So what are they? They are therapies that talk to a very specific part of your brain. I'm going to get a little sciencey for just a minute, but bear with me because it's worth it. It's worth it to begin to understand yourself on a much deeper level and how these therapies can benefit you. So, our nervous system holds a lot of stuff. It holds our experiences, those emotions connected to those experiences, which then transform into our beliefs about ourselves, whether they be positive or negative, and that really starts to impact, again, like I said before, the way we respond to situations, to people, and to events in the world. So when I talk about EMDR and brain spotting, what these therapies do that are different than your traditional talk therapy is they actually access a very different part of your brain. Think about it this way. When you're talking with a friend or talking with a therapist, or you're problem solving, or you're very in your mind with logic and reasoning, you're really utilizing your prefrontal cortex. Okay, this is the front part of our brain, the frontal lobe, the most sophisticated part of our brain, and it is our logic, reasoning, information processing part, which is great sometimes. But here's what happens. When we go through something that is sad, bad, overwhelming, traumatic, you name it, our brain responds in a very specific way. And this part shuts down, it goes offline. And another part of our brain called the limbic system, which is very in the center core part of your brain, turns on. It illuminates. And this is your fight. I can't say that very well. Fight, flight, freeze, fawn response. This is your survival brain. This is the part of your brain that turns on immediately and basically says, I am running from a lion or a saber-toothed tiger and I've got to survive. How am I going to do that in this moment? It goes to survival. So logic and reasoning kind of has to go out the window because your body and mind are trying to survive. Your mind can also not really tell the difference between being chased by a saber-toothed tiger or being late for work when you have a meeting, right? One of those situations is life-threatening and one not so much. It might cause a bad day, but it's not life-threatening. And our mind can actually not really tell the difference. So that limbic system lights up, it goes off, we survive our moment, what it is that we're going through, that stressor. And from then on, sometimes, and unfortunately, that experience, along with those emotions and the beliefs that manifest out of them, get stuck in the limbic system. So we move forward with our day, with our week, our month, our years, and because this event hasn't been processed all the way through, it just gets triggered a lot, a lot, a lot. And certain things will trigger it more than others. You'll notice that you respond in a negative way or an alarming way or a huge way to something pretty predictable. This is an indication that there might be something stuck in the limbic system. So when you're doing brain spotting, when you're doing EMDR, what you're doing is you're accessing the limbic system. You're bypassing the frontal lobe because that's not where the issue is. That's not where the overwhelm and the emotion is. It's in your limbic system, deep into the core of your brain. So it makes sense if we're trying to tackle something, a memory, an experience, or really big, heavy emotions that come up, you have to go to that side of the brain where that is held and stuck. So in a nutshell, what I want to just go over is if you've been to therapy, if it hasn't worked, if you need something more than coping skills, if cognitive behavioral therapy or your rapport with your therapist or whatever the situation is not getting you to that ultimate, what I call freedom from whatever constraint it is that you're dealing with, I encourage you to try one of these neurobiological therapies, EMDR, brain spotting. Those are the two that I do, so I'm a little biased with that. But basically any type of specialized therapy that a therapist has a lot of extensive training in to talk to that part of the brain. And when you experience one of these types of therapies, it is so different. It feels different. The process is different. The way your mind feels and your body feels is way different than your traditional talk therapy. And also, they're super empirically evidence-based therapies. They're highly researched and validated. And they prove to be even more beneficial than talk therapy alone, than medication alone, and tend to also have longer lasting, if not permanent, effects in terms of recovery and freedom from the constraints of what it is you're coming to therapy for, because you're actually accessing the part of the brain where these things are held. And not many people notice that. They might not think about that at that level. So I just encourage you, if you're looking for a therapist, if your family member or friend is looking for a therapist, and there might be some trauma, there might be something that is popping up kind of consistently in your or their lives, look at one of these therapies. Find a therapist that can teach you about your brain and your body and your nervous system, help you to understand it first and foremost, to make sense of why you feel the way you feel and do what you do, and then to help heal and reprocess those events, those memories, those feelings, and those beliefs on a much deeper and more meaningful level. So I hope that this gives you just a little extra tip when you're shopping around for a therapist. Not only is rapport and the energy exchange important between you and your therapist, but also their skill set. What is it that you are coming into therapy for, and making sure that you are searching for a therapist that can really meet your needs. So I hope that this helps you today. Thank you for coming to check on your wellness. I hope you have a wonderful day. I'll talk to you soon.